Hello and welcome to Mrs. Law's class. In this video, we're going to take a look at application problems. Specifically, we're going to take a look at number problems and consecutive number problems. Now, to solve any problem, 4 steps are required. The first is you need to write a let statement. The let statement will define what the variable represents in your question. For Math 9, we're only going to use one variable. Step 2, write an equation. So you're going to write an equation using the variable that you defined in step 1, and you want to connect it to the other information in your question. Step 3, solve the equation for the variable, which means to isolate the variable. Step 4 is you're going to answer the question using a sentence. Sometimes when you solve for the variable, you'll have x equals some number. However, in the question, it might be asking you for 2 things. For example, I might be asking you for the length and the width. So you want to write your answer in a sentence that answers both of those parts. Now note, once you think that you have solved the question, check your solution by substituting the answer back into the problem and not the equation you created, because you may have made a mistake writing the equation. So you might not know how to solve the equation, but if the equation is already wrong, then your answer will be incorrect. So you actually want to check your answer with the original problem. Okay, let's take a look at number problems. So let's do this first example. So one number is 8 less than another. When twice the larger number is added to the smaller, the sum is 52. Determine the 2 numbers. Now this is a mouthful, so let's start with writing our let statement. So let, now we can see that we are trying to find 2 numbers. And it talks about a larger number and a smaller number. So let's say that the larger number equals x, and then the smaller number it says that one number is 8 less than another, so then our second number is going to be x minus 8. All right, so now let's read this rest of it again. So when twice the larger number, so we're going to go 2 times the larger number, which is 2 times x. It is going to be, it is added to the smaller. So in this case, is does not mean equal, because it says it is added to the smaller number. So 2x and then plus x minus 8. The sum, so equals 52. So now what we can do is we're going to go 2x plus x. So that's going to be 3x. And you know what? Let's do 2 steps at once. We're going to add 8 to both sides. So that equals 60. And then divide both sides by 3. And x equals 20. So we can substitute it back into our let statement. So we can see that x is equal to 20. And the smaller number is going to be 20 minus 8, which equals 12. So we can now say that the 2 numbers are 12 and 20, or 20 and 12. All right, let's now take a look at a consecutive number problem. So what are consecutive numbers? So these are numbers that come one after the other without leaving a space or a gap, depending on what type of numbers we are looking at. So here are some let statements that we can use for specific types of numbers. So if we are looking for perhaps consecutive integers, if the first integer is x, then the second integer, because the next integer is 1 away from the first one, we can write x plus 1. The one after that is going to be 2 away from the original integer, so it will be x plus 2, and so on. So x plus 3, and on we go. Now, if the first number is an even integer, let's call it x. Now we're going to assume that that integer is already even. So the next even integer will be 2 away from the first integer. So this will be x plus 2. So for example, if your first number was 6, the next even integer will be 2 away, which is going to be 8. So that's why we're going to go x plus 2. The next integer will be 2 away again from the previous one. or from the original is going to be x plus 4, and so on. Now, if the first integer is odd, and let's assume the first integer is odd, let's say it's x. If the first integer is, let's say, 3, the next integer will also be 2 away from 3 because it will be 5. So we're going to say x plus 2. And then it will be 2 away from the previous odd integer, so it will then be x plus 4 because it's 4 away from the original, and so on. All right, let's take a look at an example. So find 2 consecutive numbers with a sum of 231. So we're going to actually assume that these are integers. We're looking at it. So we're going to go let first number equal x. Let the second number equal x plus 1. So we're just assuming they're integers. So it says find 2 consecutive numbers, which we have written our let statement with a sum. So we're going to add these 2 numbers, x plus 1, and that will give me a sum of 231. So we have x plus x, which is 2x. And let's do 2 steps at the same time. We're going to minus 1. So that equals 230. Divide both sides by 2. So x equals 115. So plugging it into our let statement, we have x is 115. And then 115 plus 1 equals 116. So the 2 numbers are 115 and 116. And there you have how to solve a consecutive number problem.